Okay, we're holding in Sefer Mishlei in the middle of Perek Yudchet, chapter 18, Pasuk Tet Vav. Lev navon yikne da'at ve'ozen chachamim tevakesh da'at. The translation of this Pasuk is, an understanding heart will acquire knowledge and the ear of the wise will seek knowledge. Many times through the Sefer Mishlei, he will emphasize the importance of Chokhmah, and he will point out those who are serious about it, how they go about it, how they have no excuses. Whenever there is a class, they go for it. Because one who has a lev navon, a heart of understanding, he realizes how important Chokhmah is. Yikne da'at, he will do whatever he can to acquire, even if it costs him money, because it's valuable to him. So one who pursues knowledge, it shows that he has a heart of understanding. And the second half of the pasuk says, "Ozen chachamim tevakesh da'at," an ear of the wise will seek knowledge. Similar idea. What the two have in common is that they both seek knowledge. But if you look closely to the words, you will find many times in the Torah the word bina, the word da'at, and even the word chokhmah. Chokhmah, bina, v'da'at. As you know, even though in Lashon HaKodesh there are synonyms, or milim nirdafot, similar words, every word means something else. It's a different idea. Chokhmah, whenever you see the word chokhmah, it means a plain knowledge. One acquires knowledge about anything. Math, science, it's all chokhmah. There's something called chokhmah Torah, but it's the raw knowledge. What do you do with it? That's another question. Well, in Torah there are various levels. After one has acquired the knowledge, he can process this knowledge. Once he has the basics, the foundation, he is able to understand on a deeper level. Lavin davar mitoch davar means that once you have something, you can understand additional things. You can make comparisons. And that's what the Gemara is all about. Tremendous amount of binah based on the foundation of the Torah, the sources, how the Chachamim arrive at certain conclusions and certain understandings. That is the importance of learning Gemara. The Mishnah is the Chokhmah, the raw knowledge, the Torah Shebal Peh, the oral law, the Halachot. But in order to understand and to further analyze situations which do not appear, situations that we have today in the 21st century that did not exist back in the Gemara, how are we supposed to know what the Halakha is? Well, if one has the Chokhmah and he goes on to Binah and he understands one thing from another, he has reached that level. And then you have the level of Da'at, which is the highest level of all. Da'at is Lashon Chibur. It means connection. Just like it says by Adam HaRishon when he was intimate with his wife Chava, it says, Vayeda ha'adam et ishto. Adam knew his wife. Knowing intimately in Lashon HaKodesh is called Yedi'ah, knowledge. There's no other word to describe the connection, the physical, intimate connection between the husband and wife as best as Yedi'ah, to know her. To know her means he has made her a part of him. There is a chibur, a connection. So when one takes the knowledge and he applies it in his life, he internalizes it, then it's a part of him. It's no longer just knowledge that is in his head, independent of him. It's a part of him. He uses this chokhmah in a way which is useful, which is practical, which benefits him. That's called da'at. On the highest level, the chokhmah is being internalized. It becomes a part of the individual. What stands out also in Sefer Mishlei is the difference, the various extremes, one of them being a chacham and a petty, or a ksil, a fool. And the rabbis have many ways to describe how one can identify who a chacham really is. You know, when you look at someone, he's well dressed, he has a good haircut, he may look knowledgeable, but there's no way to tell. Wears a nice suit, tie, and that is why we just covered recently the pasuk that Iksil, even if he keeps quiet, you may consider him smart. Before he opens up his mouth, we don't know that he's a fool. Once the fool opens up his mouth, we know that we're dealing with a fool. So sometimes silence is the best thing for one who's a fool. Otherwise, his mouth will get him into trouble. How do we identify a chacham? Not necessarily through the way he speaks, because some people are very good in talking, and they're con artists, right? They will cheat you. They will outsmart you. One of the ways to recognize a Chacham is what the Rambam tells in Pirkei Avot, Ezu Chacham halomed mikol adam. One who is willing to learn from anyone. He's so interested in knowledge, he's a Chacham, he wants Chokhmah. He doesn't even care to learn from those who are younger than him. Some people have a problem, their ego does not allow that. I know more than him, he doesn't know what he's talking about. With that kind of attitude, you can never be a Chacham. A Chacham, because he's interested in the knowledge, he will be willing to stoop down to someone who's lower than him and learn from him if there's something to learn from him. And you can learn something from everybody. So, Ezu Chacham halomed mikol adam, the rabbis tell us. Who is a Chacham? One who's willing to learn from just anybody. And you can learn something from anybody. A Chacham, another way to see a Chacham is an individual who always feels that he never learned enough. He always wants to learn more. There are some who might come to a point who might say, that's it, I've learned everything there is to learn. There's nothing else for me to learn. He's not a Chacham. So a Chacham is not just one who acquired knowledge and has a knowledge database in his mind, but who actively pursues the Chokhmah. He shows continuous interest in learning Chokhmah from just about anybody. That is a true Chacham. Now what happens sometimes is you may come across with an individual, a friend of yours perhaps, a relative, who's not a believer. He doesn't believe in God, Chas v'Shalom, he doesn't believe in Tchiyat HaMetim, he doesn't believe in the Torah, he doesn't believe it. What do you tell somebody like that? Well, first of all, I'm just going to tell you, don't tell it to him, this individual is not a Chacham. That's number one. He's not a Chacham. Because a true Chacham would want to find out the truth. A true Chacham would want to make a comparison. A true Chacham would want to investigate something that he has doubts about, that he does not know. Anybody that says he does not believe about a subject matter that he never fully investigated is not being fair. He's being foolish. One has no right to voice even an opinion about a subject that he does not know anything about. I like to pick on those who say, I don't believe in astrology. And I ask them, first of all, do you know what astrology is? Have you studied this topic that you can offer your opinion whether you believe it, accept it or not? You can't just say, you don't believe something if you do not fully go into the subject matter. You can say, I'm not sure. All right, that's what they call agnostics when it comes to religion. A person is an agnostic if he's not sure. But he cannot say, I rule it out, it's impossible. How could you say that when you've not looked into the subject matter? That is not chokhmah. A chacham allows for the possibility that something is true. Maybe he's going to look into it. You know, if something is not too clear, it requires investigation. So a person who does not believe, the first thing to tell him is, why don't you read about it first, and then come back and tell me what you think, before you reach any conclusions. Otherwise, it is not right for one to have an argument, for one to voice an opinion about a subject he does not know anything about. We're living in a generation that the most frequent ignorant individual, the most common one, is a she'eno yoda lishol. If you read the Haggadah of Pesach, there are 4 children, Chacham, Rasha, Tam, ve'eno yoda lishol. The eno yoda lishol is the most dangerous one. He does not know to ask. And what does Haggadah tell us about this individual? At ptach, you open up his mouth. In other words, you pick his curiosity. You get him interested. Because there's so many people out there who are just either so busy with their daily routine or preoccupied with something other than Torah, they don't even bother, take the moment to ask, what is Judaism? Why were my parents or my grandparents or great-grandparents so religious? Why were they prepared to give their lives for Judaism? Some people think that their parents or grandparents were more primitive, and that's why they did certain things. So many people are in that category of she'eno yoda lishol. They don't even know that the first thing they should do is ask a rabbi the questions. You have some good questions. And some people have a problem with the Holocaust, as an example. Why did the Holocaust occur? Instead of living with this problem and with the doubts about whether there was God, or if there was God, why did he allow something? Why don't you ask? And if you ask somebody who's knowledgeable with the Torah, you may even get an answer. No, they prefer to go on with their complaints to God and not to raise the questions. That's not a chacham. That's a fool. A chacham wants to know. as much as it is possible to know. It's not possible to know everything, but at least try. And because some people do not try, if it is somebody that we care about, a relative, a friend, do him the favor of opening his mouth. Aftach lo, you open up his mouth. Bring him to a shiur, give him a cassette. And I put together a cassette a long time ago, several years ago, about why a Jew should not marry a non-Jewish girl. You know, if that boy or that girl would confront his parents with that question, the parents may not be prepared. They may not know how to answer that question. So what do? You send him or her to someone who's knowledgeable. Otherwise, guess what's going to happen? He or she, who is in love, who's very attached, who's very used to that individual, may not be willing to give it up. Just because we're Jewish, that's not a good enough reason. So there are many difficult questions out there, and we had Baruch Hashem. Anyway, so At Ptach Lo, the Agadah tells us to open up his mouth, to get him interested, to make of him a Chacham, so he can become knowledgeable, so that he can get the right answers to some very difficult questions. I was beginning to say that we had a series a while ago, several years ago, the 70 most difficult questions in Judaism. I put together a list of the 70 most difficult. There may be some more, but I chose 70 of the most difficult questions, and we went through each one to try to understand as much as our human minds is capable of understanding some of these issues, according to, of course, to the sources that we have. And we always must remember that it is not possible for the human being to ever understand everything there is in this world. To understand the ways of Hashem is not something so easy. Nevertheless, we do have a foundation. We have the Torah, we have the Zohar, we have the Gemara. We do have quite a bit of information. And one who does not attempt to draw from this knowledge base is not a Chacham. Next pasuk. Matan adam yarchiv lo v'lifnei gedolim yanchenu. A man's gift, I would rather say, one's open hand. But he translates it here. A man's gift will make room for him, and it would lead him before the great. Matan adam yarchiv lo is talking about tzedakah. It's talking about being open-handed, being a giving, kind person. This kind of an attitude, Shlomo HaMelech tells us, will get you to many places in this world, will open up many doors. It will do a lot more benefit to an individual to be open-handed, to give tzedakah, than to be a kantzan, to be stingy. A stingy person, he is focused on his money, on watching his money, keeping it for himself, not sharing it with others, not spending it. And he lives a difficult life. There are people who have loads of money and restrict themselves unnecessarily. And Hashem gave you some money, you are entitled to enjoy it. There's no isur. As long as one does not overdo it. One is entitled to enjoy it, one is entitled to spend a little bit more than the average, depending on how much money he has. And he doesn't have to worry because it's a beracha. Enjoy it. But when you enjoy it, just remember to share it with others who need it too. So matan adam yarchiv lo, when one gives of his money to others, yarchiv lo means that life will be very good to him because things will open up. Doors will open up. People will like him. He will have many friends. He will have many connections. Yarchiv lo means that he will have it very, very wide, very well. One may think he's giving away all his money, he's going to have less. On the contrary, rabbis tell us nobody ever becomes poor from giving tzedakah. There was one individual who was very wealthy, and all of a sudden his business was going down. And as soon as he noticed that the business was going down, he decided to give more tzedakah. His friend said, "Are you crazy? This is a time to save." He said, "No, this is a time to give even more because I may not be able to give tzedakah a couple of weeks from now. So I want to do it as much as I can now." This was his attitude. And of course, Hashem rewards those who give to others, as we know with the segula of Maaseh, those who give a 10%. It's a segula of osher, of wealth. Doesn't mean you're going to be a millionaire. It just means that at least your wealth will be preserved. That's also beracha. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Hashem should bless you with lots of money. But if you're blessed with lots of money, many thieves can come and take it. So you need a second blessing. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. That He should safeguard that money. The people should not hold you up. You shouldn't have to put bars on your windows because you have more money now. And be afraid. What kind of a blessing is it when a person is afraid of the money he has? So Matan Adam Yarhib Lo, Shlomo Melech says, one should feel good about giving to others because in the end, he will benefit from it. This is the way to open many, many doors. Whereas the other way around, if a person is stingy, he will not have many friends. He will not have many doors open. People will remember it. They will remember it even on the day of his funeral. They will talk about it. B'lifnei gdolim yanchenu means that he will be able to attain high positions. In other words, even those in a higher position will benefit him. He will be able to receive assistance from them. Pasuk Sadiq Harishon Berivo Yavo Re'eu V'Hakaro. He who pleads his case first seems just, but his neighbor comes and searches him out. Let me use a few different words here. Sadiq Harishon Berivo, when two individuals have a court case, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven goes to the Bet Din first, so he goes to the rabbi, goes to the judge, and he pleads his case. He's not doing something right. It's against the halakha to do that. Why? Because of what he says over here. Whenever somebody goes and pleads his case by himself, Sadiq Harishon Verivo, the first one who comes will always appear just, because the other one has not had a chance to show his side of the story. And the judge says, you know what? You have a good point. It sounds right. I mean, he's going to put up the best show possible. So Tzaddik Harishon Berivo, the one who always comes first, may appear just, but in the end, Uva Re'eu V'Hakaro, when his other friend will come and the case will have to be investigated, the judge will find that it's not so true as he first thought. Therefore, this pasuk is really intended for judges. Never hear a baldin shelo bifnei baldino asheni. Never hear one baldin, one of the individuals who's coming to contend his case, never hear his side of the story unless the other one is present too. This is not only, by the way, this is not only with just cases, with court cases. This could be at home between two brothers. You know, they're fighting. Who are you going to rebuke? You're going to hit one, you may hit the wrong one. So you have to be careful until you hear the whole story, what exactly happened between the two of them, so you can decide who is to blame. Usually both are to blame. Next pasuk Yudchet, Midyanim yashbit hagoral uven atzumim yafrid. This one I like. It's a very interesting solution. He says over here, the lot, L-O-T, causes quarrels to cease, and it separates contentious people. Everybody know here what contentious people? Contentious people means people who have an argument. Two brothers have an argument about an inheritance. Two rabbis have an argument about who's going to be the rabbi of the community. The next one. The other one passed away. These things have happened. Two sons, not necessarily inheriting money, but they're the next ones in line to take the position of their father. Which one should we give it to? The oldest one? Well, not necessarily. Maybe the younger one is smarter. These are all contentious situations. Or quarrels of all types. Shlomo Melech tells us something very interesting, and I'm really not sure myself why they don't follow this more often. Because quarrels we have every day, right? All types. Why don't you just solve it with a goral? Now, not every situation can be solved with a goral, but Shlomo Melech says many contentious situations are easily solved with a goral. We call it in this country flipping a coin. You don't want to use an American coin for this. You don't want to use money for this. There's other ways to make goralot, right? Now, what is the goral going to prove? The goral is going to prove not what you have to say, now what I have to say. What does Hashem have to say? And there were many stories where they follow this. You know, what does Hashem have to say about who should be the next leader of the community? Who should be the next president of the community? Okay, let's make a goral. They all cast their lots, their name into a hat, right? That's one type of goral. However they want to do it. There's various types of goralot. And let the goral decide who is the next one. Because ha-goral Hashem. Goral belongs to Hashem. Right? They did that in Yom Kippurim. Between the two goats. They had two goats. One Hashem, one La'azazel, that they were going to send off, right? Throw him off the mountain. And one that was Hashem. How was that decided? Through a cast of lots. And there were stories where they had to decide the rabbi, and it came out, whoever it came out with, and then they realized afterwards that it was meant to be like that. In other words, they realized only later on, they were able to figure out that in reality it made sense that he was chosen. So for many problems, you can cast the Goral. And that will determine who is the one that needs to be chosen for a particular position, or what needs to be done. And what will that accomplish? Midyanim yashbit. Quarrels will cease. Yes, that's part of Judaism. Goralot. Because we very much believe that everything is dictated from above, that everybody has his own personal mazal as well, and therefore when you do certain things in a certain way, in a kosher way, you are able to determine what the mazal of the individual is, or what the goral is, or what Hashem wants. Give an example. Many of you played Monopoly once upon a time, or bingo, one of these games. I assure you that whoever has a very good mazal, he will win most of the time these games. Because in the same way he makes more money in his business, in the same way he will win the games too. It's always true. It always works like that. Because one's mazal is usually across the board. He may not have mazal with his children. That's a whole different story. But when it comes to winning money, when it comes to winning a game, if the guy is going to make it, he's an 8-year-old boy, if he's the one that's always winning the game, you can rest assured that this man will be wealthy. He will be well-to-do. His mazal is good. He's winning most of the games. And it's not something random. See, that's what I'm trying to point out over here. We don't believe in randomness. It's either be'ashgacha pratit, which is a Jewish idea, or there's a more universal idea called mazal. Yes, somebody was going to ask something?
I was just wondering how
We'll look at later on. So anyway, so this is a good way of solving problems. Next pasuk, mipri pi ish. No, that's the following pasuk. Pasuk yutet, ach nifsha mikriyat oz umidyanim kebriach harmon. A rebellious brother. It does not necessarily mean a rebellious brother, but a brother who is nifsha. Nifsha means that he is, I guess, rebellious might be the best word, but it doesn't mean rebellious in the way we understand rebellious, that he's against the parent or against the family. He's in bad terms with his other brothers. Ach nifsha means that he is against. He's upset and against at his own brother. This is more difficult, mikriyat oz, from a strong city of enemies. And I'm going to explain what this means. Umidyanim kebriach harmon. And the quarrels are like the bolt of a castle, the bolt that you close the door of the castle. The message that he's trying to tell us over here is as follows. The words sometimes are difficult, but the message is very clear. The most difficult quarrels are the quarrels of two brothers. Ach nifsha mikriyat oz. A brother who's rebellious, or a brother who's fighting with his own brother, this is a more difficult quarrel than Kiryat Oz, than a strong city full of enemies. Because one's brother knows the brother better than somebody else, and a stranger. And therefore, he might hurt him in many ways where somebody else would not know how to hurt him. When the Germans wanted to catch the Jews, they hired kapos. What was a capo? A Jewish policeman. They hired a Jewish policeman. And what was the advantage of a Jewish policeman? They spoke Yiddish. Now, some of those kapos were good men. They had compassion for their brothers, and of course they did not turn their own brothers in, but some of them were not too good. Perhaps the majority of them, for a little bit more cocoa and margarine, for a little bit better breakfast, they were willing to turn in their Jewish brothers. It's a terrible sin. That is what he's talking about here in general. An nifsha mikriyat oz. A brother hating or quarreling or rebelling against another brother is worse or more dangerous than a strong city of enemies. Because it's your own brother. Umidyanim kebriach harmon. The quarrels between these two brothers are like a bolt of a castle. What's a bolt of a castle? A bolt of a castle is very difficult to open. It's heavy. Open and close the bolt of a castle. Quarrels between two brothers are the hardest ones to settle. In other words, you may be able to make peace between two neighbors, two friends, what used to be friends and now they're fighting. But to make peace between two brothers is like kibriya harmon. It's like the bolt of a castle. It's just, he's telling us, it's just more difficult. Be prepared for it. Unfortunately, it should not be like that. It should be that two brothers of the same father and mother should make up easily, should embrace. There should be peace. But no, the quarrels are very difficult. Now obviously the quarrels are usually nonsense. They're usually shtuyot. Unless, could you imagine two brothers fighting? I want to take care of my mother tonight. I want to take care of my mother tonight. Now I'd like to see that happen. And that would be a good quarrel, right? That doesn't happen too much. A lot of times brothers and sisters say, no, you take care of him. I don't want to. Let's put her or him away in a convalescent home. Now sometimes you have no choice. He or she may need a convalescent home to take care of the sick individual. But many times one is better off with his kids, but the kids don't have time for them. They don't visit them. And when they visit the parents, they don't necessarily treat them well, respect them well. They're not necessarily patient with them. It's very, very challenging to be with an elderly parent. It's not easy. But we must remember how much they gave of their life and their time and their money to take care of us for so many years. We have to repay them back. It's not only a mitzvah. We owe it to them. I just read an article how many Americans are getting married late, in their late 30s, and having children then. So what happens is, I forget the term they used, they are stuck between raising their young children at a stage in life when they're already having to take care of their elderly parents. Usually it does not happen like that. When somebody gets married, let's say at 20, so by the time he's 40, 45, his kids are already teenagers, grown up. By then, to help the parents, okay. But to be able to take care of the small kids and take care of elderly parents, it's very difficult. It is difficult. You need help. But this is something that the brothers should quarrel about. Who's going to help? In other words, they both should want to help. Everybody should want to help. But unfortunately, many of the quarrels are about shtuyot, not about these kind of things. And these are quarrels that sometimes are very difficult to resolve because it's like a bolt of a castle door. They're just so stuck in this quarrel that it's very difficult to settle this matter. It doesn't mean one should not try. Shalom bayit, shalom ben adam lechavro is something very, very important. One has to do his best. But the two people have to be logical. And they have to use common sense. And they cannot be greedy. And unfortunately, it's asking too much, what I just asked. For people to use common sense, logic, and not to be greedy. It happens to be a lot. For people, money means everything. Money has become a god, and that is why they're not willing to give up even $1 of what they think is coming to them. Yes.
But the heads of the Shvatim, why were they so upset with Yosef? Rabbi, in one sense, he's a brother, out of respect for Yaakov. He should have been.
Well, that's why, on Sunday I discussed Parshat HaShavua. And that is why Yehuda and Yosef were each one punished, midah keneged midah, measure for measure, for what they did wrong. That was not proper. Even though they were all tzaddikim, it doesn't mean that they did everything 100% right. And Hashem, of course, taught them the lesson, taught us the lesson, that we've already discussed another time. But I don't want to, move into that topic because I want to focus here on Mishlei now. Next pasuk, mipri pi ish tizba bitno tevuat sefatav yizba. What comes out of the lips, what comes out of the mouth? We're talking about lashon hara or lashon tov. That's the fruit of the lips. That's the fruit of the mouth. In other words, one can get himself into trouble depending on how he uses his tongue, how he uses his mouth. But there's a good side too. Tivuat sefatav yizba, one can interpret that to mean that there is a good, that there is a benefit that can come out from using one's mouth properly. For example, one who is mezaket harabim, in other words, he teaches others. One who's mochiach, he rebukes those that need to be rebuked. He tells them off. Oseh shalom ben adam lechavro, he sits together with a husband and wife who are having a terrible argument, and he makes peace with them. So he has used his mouth in a good way. And this is another area that Shlomo Melech points out many times in Mishlei, how powerful and how dangerous the tongue can be if one does not use it properly. So there's some benefit that can come out of using it properly, and there's a lot of harm that can be done with the mouth as well. And that's what leads to the next pasuk, a very similar idea, more famous perhaps, and that is Mavet v'chayim biyad lashon, v'ohavea yochal piryah. Death and life are in the hand of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its produce. Death and life. Now, death and life. Why does it say death and life? Because we're talking about consequences in olam hazeh. That is why he says v'ohavea yochal piryah. Those who love it, in other words, who use it properly, will eat its fruit. When do you eat its fruit? In this world. There are some mitzvot and some averot that one pays for them or receives reward for them in this world. And we say it every morning. There are certain things that we eat the fruit. The principle is reserved for the world to come. Lashon, the tongue, is not only a powerful organ, it can make a difference how one's life in Olam Hazeh will be. In other words, will he have a difficult life? In other words, will he suffer the consequences of his Lashon Hara? Well, it depends if he spoke Lashon Hara. Or did he use his mouth for Divrei Torah, and as a result will benefit somehow from the words of Torah that he spoke, that he taught. There's a famous story that I'll share with you briefly to tell us how powerful the tongue is. You may have heard of it. I'll just repeat it. It's the story of a king in Persia who became very, very sick, dangerously ill. And his doctors told him the only cure for him was to get milk from a lioness. Now that's very difficult to get. Where are you going to get milk? From a lioness. Once you find a lion, you have to have a lot of courage to go and get her milk. So this doctor went to Shlomo Melech. Shlomo Melech asked Benayahu, one of his servants, to please take care of this man and get him the milk. But he asks him, how are you going to do it? He says, don't worry, just give me 10 goats and I'll take care of it. And Shlomo Melech gives the Benayahu 10 goats. Benayahu goes over to a cave where there was a lioness nursing her cubs, and he stood from a distance, and the first day he threw 1 goat to the lioness. She ate it. The next day he got closer, he threw another goat. The third day he got closer, until on the last day he was already playing with the lioness. And he was able for a few moments to get her milk in a container, and he left. He became friends with the lioness little by little. On his way back, he has a dream. In the dream he says all the limbs having an argument. The feet are arguing, had it not been for the feet, you would not have been able to get the milk. And the eyes say, Ma pitom, had it not been for the eyes that saw where we're going, you would not have been able to go to the lioness. All the limbs were arguing who gets the credit for getting the milk. Until the tongue came and said, you guys don't know what you're talking about. If it wouldn't be for my tongue, if it wouldn't be for the tongue, all of you would be helpless. And they turn around to the tongue. This is all in a dream. What are you talking about? You tongue, you're in such a dark place, nobody even sees you. You have no power whatsoever. I have no power whatsoever. I'm going to show you I have more power than you tomorrow. As soon as the doctor, this was all in the dream, the doctor arrives in the palace, and he tells the king, here king, here's the milk of a dog. And as soon as he said dog, by mistake, the king got so upset. You got me the milk of a dog? He says, go hang him. Hang the guy, hang the doctor. And now all the limbs started trembling. And the tongue says, I told you so. You see? Now you're powerless. Go do something. Save your life. So the limb said, you're right. So the tongue turns over to them and says, if you make me the king, then I will save your life. Will you make me the king? Yes, you're the king from now on. So the doctor asks one of the soldiers, go take me back to the king. I have a request. I want to say something. Goes back to the king. Your Honor, when I said a dog, I really meant the lioness, because a lioness is also called a dog. And by the way, what do you care anyway? Why don't you drink it? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, what do you care? So the doctor drank it, and he realized it was really milk from a lioness. He did recover from his sickness, and of course the guy went free. The guy was saved from death. The whole story is to prove one point, how powerful the Lashon is, that death and life are in the hands of the tongue. The tongue can decide everything. It depends on what you say. You can get yourself into trouble, or you can be very, very effective in bringing life, in convincing people, in making peace between people. We've come to a very, very important pasuk. Again, one of my favorites. And this is a pasuk that is also mentioned various times in Mishlei in different words. And you have to really, really pay close attention, because this applies a lot, very much to singles and to those who are married. Pasuk Chabet, Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov. Yafek Ratzon me'Adonai. He who has found a wife has found good and has obtained favor from Hashem. Now what does it mean, Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov? There are some people who are having a very difficult marriage. Like he pointed out, some people would rather say, if you didn't find, you're even better off. Right? It's not so. Matzah Isha, Matzah Tov, what are we talking about? We're not just talking about any woman. We're talking about a good woman. We're talking about a righteous woman. One who has found a good woman, one who has a good wife, Matzah Tov, he's the only one that can claim that he really has something good. Why? Because anybody who has gotten a lot of wealth and kavod, there can be something detrimental with that wealth. As Shlomo Melech tells us in Kohelet, Yesh osher shamur leba'alav lera'ato. There's some money that will get someone into trouble. There's some kavod and some higher positions that will ruin a person's life. Money, power, kavod may be good, but may be very bad too. A good wife is only tov. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And Shlomo Melech is pointing this out for a very important reason. To those who are single, says this is what you have to look for. This is what you have to aim for. And by the way, I have to be fair to the men too. It also means if you found a good man, a good husband, obviously the woman should be very happy too. The idea here is a woman is the crown of the house. She's the ezer kenegdo. She's the one that raises the children. A man cannot be without a woman for too long. And that is why the rabbis encourage those who have been married once, who become widowed, to marry again, even if they're older. Lo tov heyot ha'adam levado, when Hashem said it's not good for a man to be by himself, he did not mean just a 20-year-old person. He meant even a 45, 50-year-old person who becomes widowed. Don't stay alone. Why? For the second half of the pasuk. Vayafek ratzon me'Hashem. In other words, one will obtain favor from Hashem. And this has two meanings. The simple meaning is that Hashem likes you. That's why He has given you a good woman. Yafek ratzon me'Hashem. But the other idea is what the rabbis tell us. The one that marries a righteous woman, this woman not only gives him blessing, he homa, she's like a wall or a fence. Shematzila oto minachet, she protects him from sin. So a man without a woman, especially in some parts of the world, it's not a good idea. She protects him from sin. So therefore, v'yafek ratzon me'Hashem means that he will find favor or obtain favor from Hashem, because he will be able to preserve his sanctity, his kedusha. He will not come to sin. She will protect him. So there are many benefits of being married. Rabbis even tell us the same about children. One has had children when he was young. When you remarry again, for example, a second time, you can have children again. Why? Because you don't know which child will be a better child. There's no way to know. The child from the second wife may be greater, maybe more of a chacham, maybe more God-fearing. Maybe you weren't so lucky with the first kids. So one does not know where he will do better. Some people think that they're going to dump the first wife and the second wife will be better. Now that's already a mistake, because that there's no guarantee. That there's no guarantee. And that is why the rabbis, of course, say divorce is something that for last resort, because you can never know if the second or third time around is going to be any better. So make the most of what you have now. Maybe your mazal is not so good. And there are some men that don't have mazal with women. With everyone that they land, it just doesn't work out. Now it could be that they're not behaving themselves. It could be they're the problem. But it also could be their mazal. It's just that they don't do well. And there are other situations that every marriage and every relationship is good. And you want to know what the reason for that is? That's not necessarily mazal. It has to do with the last pasuk that we're going to cover. Actually, we have 2 more pasukim to go. I'll leave it for the last pasuk. It has to do with something called friendship. What does friendship have to do with marriage? You're going to see soon. So anyway, Shlomo Melech emphasizes the beauty of having a good wife, and he says that this shows favor from Hashem, and this is something that everybody should pray for. Instead of asking for money, for a big dowry, I want a rich girl, one should ask for a good wife, a devoted wife, a righteous woman, Isha Yirat Hashem, and also a good cook. It helps. Why not? That's okay. Mutar. But listen, even if she doesn't know how to make eggs the first day when you get married, and most of them don't, eventually she will learn, especially if she has a good mother. Right? So if your mother-in-law is a good cook, hopefully the daughter-in-law will also be a good cook. But this is more important than the dowry. What if you get the money and she's a witch? You want that? The money eventually will go away. And you're stuck. And if she doesn't know how to raise the kids, what kind of a woman is that? But people make the mistake, then they concentrate on a woman who has money instead of a woman who has good midot, yirat shamayim, good family. That's more important than anything. That's called Isha Tova. Matzah Isha Matzah Tov is when he has a woman who's an Eshet Hayil. As we will see, there's a whole perek devoted to this idea of what is an Eshet Hayil, the last perek of Mishlei. Pasuk Chav Gimel Tachanunim Yidaber Rash Ve'ashir Ya'aneh Azot. Poor man speaks with supplications, but a rich man replies with impudence. This second half of the pasuk is very famous. The first half is telling us that a poor man speaks with supplications. He begs. What is he telling us? He's telling us that actually this is a good way to pray to Hashem. As there is a pasuk, I think in Tehillim, that says, Tefillah le'ani ki ya'atof v'lifnei Hashem yishpoch sicho. In other words, that is the way that one should speak to Hashem, like a poor man coming and asking or begging. He tells us here the nature of things, that a poor man speaks with supplications. The second half of the pasuk is sad. Ve'ashir ya'aneh azot. And a rich man replies with chutzpah, replies with impudence. I hear this many, many times. Somebody went to see a rich man to ask him for a donation, ask him for a favor, or he went to speak to him about some other matter, and the guy came back and said, he yelled at me. He was never like that when I knew him. 30 years ago when we were in school together. The problem is now, ve'ashir yaneh azot, he's become rich. And those who are rich have the tendency to reply, to answer, to deal with people with impudence. They think they're who knows what. They have all this money in the world, and therefore they can control you. They can say whatever they want to you. So what he's saying over here is that it's very normal. Don't be surprised. It's very normal for a rich man to answer with azut. That's why a lot of people know the saying from here. Ve'ashir yaneh azot. A rich man just answers with chutzpah. Even if in front of him is a rabbi, even if in front of him is a big important person, he just has the guts, the audacity, the chutzpah, because he thinks that he has all this money in the world. Shlomo Melech later on will tell us a very interesting pasuk that's related to this. He asks Hashem, Resh ve'osher al titen li. Don't give me poverty or wealth. Don't give me any of the two extremes. They're both very difficult challenges. Person who is poor has a very difficult, challenging life. Person who is wealthy has even a more difficult life. As the rabbis tell us, the nisayon of osher, the challenge of having money, is much more difficult than the challenge of having poverty. One who is poor will be humble. So the chances are that he will remain religious. The one who becomes rich becomes arrogant. The chances of him getting off the derech are very, very high. There was a whole big machloket between the rabbis during Napoleon's time in Poland. Who should we pray that should win, Napoleon or the Russians? That's a good question, right? There was some rabbis said, let's pray that Napoleon should win, because if the French come in, the standard of living will go up, the Jews will have a better life. The other rabbi said, no way in the world. We want the communists, the Russians, to win. Let us, the Jews, continue to be poor, because if those French come in, they're going to destroy the Jews spiritually. There's going to be decadence, even if there's going to be more money, better economy. And that's exactly what happened wherever the Alliance Française, wherever the French school system, whether it was in Morocco, in Egypt, or in Iran, wherever the French went, the spirituality of the community went down. People became less religious. So therefore there was one rabbi who always prayed that his kids, his descendants, should always be poor. Can you imagine somebody praying that all his descendants should be poor? He never wanted them to have the challenge of having too much money, because it's very difficult. If you have a lot of money, you have many challenges of what to do with the money, to preserve the money, not to become too arrogant, not to become too chatzuf, to use it wisely. I mean, many, many difficulties. But if one does have it, obviously, he should be careful. That's what he says over here, Bashi Yanei Azot. Since it's natural, it's normal for an Ashir to behave like that, it doesn't mean you have to be like that. Be careful. And the last pasuk of the Perek, very important pasuk that relates a little bit to marriage, but more to friendships. Ish ra'im li'tro'ea v'yesh ohev davek me'ach. A man acquires friends with whom to associate. Ish ra'im li'tro'ea. In other words, ra'im, friends. One can acquire friends or associates, colleagues, to be friendly with, to associate with. V'yesh ohev davek me'ach. However, there is a friend who sticks closer than one's own brother. Yesh re'a davek me'ach. There's another pasuk that says, Yesh re'a davek me'ach. There are some friends that are closer than two brothers. No, it shouldn't be like that. Okay, it shouldn't be like that. But what can we do? It is like that. Some brothers are not necessarily too close. They don't necessarily dislike each other, but there are some friends who are even closer than two brothers. And that's a very powerful friendship. This is the kind of friendship that ideally should exist between a husband and couple. That they should mean everything for each other. If one has that, he's lucky. But how do you get it? Anybody know? How do you get a good friend?
You gotta be a good friend.
You gotta be a good friend. You know why a lot of people don't seek this kind of friendship? Why doesn't everybody want to have the best friend? You know what it is to have at least one best friend possible that is closer than their own? Why doesn't everybody aspire for that? I've asked a lot of people, they don't even have that on their mind as one of their goals that they want to achieve in life. I know to me that was always priority number one, or priority number two. Wife, of course. Same thing, I put it in the same level. Why? Because they don't know how to be a friend. To have a very, very good friend, you have to be one. And to be one, you have to be willing to do everything in the world, for your friend. Imagine your friend is sick in Cedar Sinai, and you live in the valley. Would you walk on Shabbat? Would you walk there? I mean, let's say the city, of course, you would go. Why not? I'm not talking about the mitzvah right now. I'm talking about, would you have the burning desire to visit, to see him? Now, of course, if it's a short Shabbat, you may have a good excuse. I'm going to see Motzei Shabbat anyway. And by the time you get to the hospital, it's already after Shabbat. But I just give a small example. How much would one be willing to do for the other? That is the test of the friendship. And the test of friendship is seen, as we've seen in another pasuk, le'et tzara, a time of trouble. During difficult times, we can see who our true friends are indeed. In time of need, we know who our true friends are indeed. It's a saying in many languages. It is true. You can trust it, that unfortunately those people who one may think are his good friends are not necessarily good friends. Just test them. Go ahead and test them one day and you will be surprised. Maybe you shouldn't. You shouldn't be saddened. Yeah? No. You're right. I use that as an example of how much does a friend have a burning desire. Let's say his friend asked him, it was not on his own, would he go, even if it's hard for him? I was just trying to use an example of how two very good friends would want to do almost anything to be with each other, to do for each other, even if it was difficult. That may not be the best example because maybe it's not practical to go 8-9 miles. It doesn't make sense. Right? You can use Laurel Canyon too. Yeah, it's even harder. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's not the best. That's not the best example. But anyway, let's just finish with this idea that There are different kinds of friends, and as you know, and I've said it before, in the various languages, in Farsi, in Arabic, in English, in Hebrew, there are various names of friends. You know, various levels of whether somebody's a colleague or an associate or a friend. The highest level of friendship in Lashon HaKodesh is Re'ah. As it says, Ve'afta l're'acha kamocha. There's something called Chaver, which is Milashon Chibur, just a connection. And there's something called Amit, Amitecha. Ocheach tocheach et Amitecha. You have a deeper connection. He may be a neighbor, he may be a partner. Right? That's Amitecha. That means you have more responsibilities towards him. That's why you should discipline him, rebuke him if you see something wrong. And then there is Re'acha. Why does the Torah say Ve'afta l're'acha kamocha, not Ve'afta et re'acha? It says Le. Ve'afta l're'acha, in other words, acquire yourself a friend, even one where you can make him an equal to you. And if you do so, Ani Hashem, it's a tremendous Kiddush Hashem when one is willing to give of himself completely to another individual. That is not only a good midah to give of oneself, but to acquire another individual who cares about you as much as you care about him. It's a tremendous amount of power. And if that power can be applied at home between a husband and wife, it's the strongest relationship possible. Nothing can break that. Nothing will part them except for death. Is that the way it goes? There are some who are so close that after the husband passes away, the wife cannot stay here in this world anymore, and she leaves a week after him. That's how close they were. Close in their life and close in their death. There's all sorts of relationships in this world. Not everybody is, of course, involved in these kind of relationships. I just wanted to point out this to you because when the rabbis tell us K'nei lecha chaver, aseh lecha rav v'k'nei lecha chaver, they meant it, that this is a very important asset to have. A good friend, like a good wife, is one of the most important assets one can ever have. So I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah, and B'ezrat Hashem, even though next week is Hanukkah, we will still continue to have the shiur at 9 o'clock.